Promise me you will marry me once I am a normal person, Leora begged. She trusted him with her whole heart, forgetting that many men are moved first by eyes, by beauty, not by quiet love. Once upon a time, deep under the bright blue sea, there lived a young mermaid called Leora. She was not just any mermaid, she was the daughter of the Sea King, and her hair was as black as the midnight ocean. Her eyes shone like pearls, and her laughter rang like little silver bells that made even the dolphins spin in joy. Leora loved her world. She loved the wide coral palaces, the glowing fish that lit up the water at night, and the sea songs that echoed in the caves. Every day felt like a festival. Leora's sisters often teased her because, unlike them, she spent hours near the surface watching the sun rise and fall. She loved the golden light as it melted into the sea, and the stars that glittered above like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Her heart was full of joy, yet something inside her whispered that there was more. She felt a pull, a strange longing that she could not explain. Sometimes she imagined another world, one where people walked on two legs, wore bright clothes, and built castles of stone. She had never seen that world clearly, only through stories told by wandering gulls and whispers from the waves. But her heart told her it was real, and one day she would see it with her own eyes. One afternoon, Leora swam closer to the surface than ever before. The waves were calm, and the sky was painted with soft pink clouds. She heard something unusual: drums, laughter, and voices carried by the wind. Carefully, she rose higher, hiding behind a rock until her eyes peeked above the water. There, on the sandy shore, stood a young man dressed in shining white robes with gold trim. He was tall, strong, and handsome, with skin that glowed like the warm earth. Around him were many people, clapping and cheering, for he was the prince of the land. His name was Prince Adrian. That day, the villagers celebrated his birthday, and music filled the air. Leora's heart skipped. She had seen humans before from far away, but never like this. Never so close. And never one who seemed to shine like sunlight itself. She could not take her eyes off him. The way he smiled at the children, the way he bowed his head to the elders, it stirred something deep in her. She felt her heart race in a way it never had before. But just as quickly, a warning echoed in her mind. Her father had told her many times, "Stay away from the humans. They cannot know of us. Our worlds are too different." Leora sank a little deeper into the water, torn between fear and wonder. Yet she could not swim away. The prince's laughter pulled her heart like a net. That very night, the calm waves grew restless. Dark clouds gathered and thunder shook the sky. A great storm swept over the sea, tossing ships like toys. Leora, still close to the surface, saw a royal ship caught in the fury. The sails tore, the mast cracked, and cries of sailors filled the night. Her heart pounded as lightning lit up the scene. On the deck she saw him, Prince Adrian, struggling as the ship tilted dangerously. Then came the crash. The ship split apart, and men were thrown into the black waters. Without thinking, Leora surged forward. She swam through the angry waves, dodging broken wood and wild currents. Then she found him, the prince sinking, his eyes closing, his body growing limp. Panic filled her chest, but she wrapped her arms around him and kicked her tail hard, pushing upward. The sea fought against her, but she did not let go. She sang softly, a song of strength, and the waters seemed to obey. At last, she carried him to the shore, laying him gently on the sand. His chest rose and fell faintly. She touched his face, whispering words he could not hear. For a moment, she imagined what it would feel like to belong in his world, to walk beside him. But the first rays of dawn appeared, and she knew she could not be seen. Humans must never know that a mermaid had saved him. With one last glance and a heart that ached with both joy and sorrow, she slipped back into the waves, disappearing as villagers came running toward the shore. From that day, Leora's heart was no longer the same. She could not forget his face, his smile, or the feel of holding him close as she carried him through the storm. She swam often to the shore, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. She watched him walk with guards, laugh with nobles, and speak kindly to the poor. Her sisters noticed her absence. They warned her that she was playing with danger. "Humans cannot love us," one said. "They fear what they do not understand," said another. Even her grandmother, wise and gentle, told her, "Child, the sea is your home. Do not chase shadows on the land. They will only bring you pain." But Leora's heart was stubborn. The more she was warned, the more her desire grew. She dreamed of having legs, of wearing gowns, of walking beside the prince in the gardens of his castle. She longed to hear his voice not from a distance, but close to her ear. One night, when the moon was full and the waves whispered secrets, Leora swam to the deepest part of the ocean. There lived the one creature everyone feared, the sea witch. The sea witch lived in a cave covered with black seaweed and bones of lost creatures. Her eyes glowed green, and her long fingers dripped with dark magic. When Leora swam in, the witch smiled a cruel smile. "I know why you are here," she hissed. "You want to walk on land to be with your prince." Leora shivered, but she nodded. "Yes, I want to live in his world. I want to be part of it." The witch laughed, her voice echoing like 100 broken shells. "It can be done, but it will cost you." "What must I give?" Leora whispered. "Your voice," the witch said. "The sweetest voice in the sea. In exchange, I will give you legs. You will walk among the humans, but you will never speak or sing again. The prince loves you and marries you, you will live as a human forever. But if he does not, you will turn into sea foam and vanish when the sun rises after his wedding to another." Leora's heart trembled, but her desire burned stronger. She thought of the prince's smile, of the way her heart leapt when she saw him. Slowly, she nodded. The witch prepared the potion, dark and swirling. "Drink this when you reach the shore," she commanded. "Remember, child, love always demands a price." With shaking hands, Leora took the potion. Her heart beat fast as she swam upward, knowing she was leaving behind her voice, her family, and her world, all for the chance of love. The morning sun rose golden over the sea as Leora dragged herself onto the shore. In her hands, she held the potion the sea witch had given her. Her heart raced. She thought of her father's warning, her sister's tears, and her grandmother's sad eyes. But she also thought of the prince, the man whose smile had stolen her heart. With trembling hands, she opened the shell bottle and drank the dark liquid. Burned her throat like fire, and pain spread through her body. She fell to the ground, gasping as her tail split into 2 slender legs. Her voice cried out in agony, but the sound vanished into silence. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. The sea witch had taken her voice. Exhausted, she fainted on the sand. Hours later, she opened her eyes to find herself wrapped in a cloak. Standing above her was Prince Adrian. His eyes widened as he looked down at her. "Who are you?" he asked softly, his voice full of wonder. Leora tried to answer, but no words came. She touched her throat and shook her head. Adrian frowned, but then smiled kindly. "You cannot speak, but you are safe now." He helped her to her feet, amazed at her beauty. Her long black hair flowed down her back, and though she wore no gown, her cloak covered her with dignity. He took her to the palace, where servants gave her fine clothes and a warm bed. Everyone whispered about the mysterious girl the prince had brought home, but Adrian protected her with gentle care. He called her Serena, since she had no voice to tell her true name. For Leora, every day in the palace was like living in a dream. She walked through marble halls, gardens filled with roses, and dining rooms where gold lamps shone. She ate sweet fruits she had never tasted before and danced barefoot on stone floors under the glow of candles. Best of all, she was always near the prince. Her heart swelled with happiness, but deep inside she knew her time was short. The witch's warning echoed in her mind. If he marries you, you will live. If he does not, you will vanish like foam. Palace was filled with beauty, but also with eyes that watched. Servants whispered in corners. Guards frowned as Leora passed. Courtiers bowed politely but exchanged knowing looks behind her back. Some smiled to her face but whispered cruel things when she turned away. "She came from nowhere," one maid muttered. "Why does the prince protect her so much?" another asked. "She has no family, no name, no voice. How can such a girl be fit for him?" Leora heard these things, though she could not answer. Each word pierced her heart like a thorn. She tried to smile and show kindness, but silence made her seem strange, even dangerous. At night, she sat by her window and looked out at the sea. She longed to sing, to let her voice rise like waves, but her throat was empty. She pressed her hand to the glass and whispered in her heart, "Prince Adrian, please let your love be enough." Prince, though kind, was troubled. He often asked her questions she could not answer. "Where do you come from? Who are your parents? What happened to your voice?" He grew frustrated at her silence, though he tried to hide it. Still, he treated her with respect and showed her the world beyond the palace. They rode horses through the countryside, sailed across calm rivers, and walked through markets where children smiled at her. She could not speak, but her eyes shone with love, and sometimes Adrian felt her silence spoke louder than words. But shadows were growing, waiting for the right moment to strike. News spread across the kingdom. A princess from a neighboring land was coming to visit. Her name was Princess Elara, daughter of a powerful king. She was beautiful, with golden-brown skin, long braided hair, and eyes sharp as daggers. She carried herself like someone who had never been denied anything. The day she arrived, the palace filled with music and laughter. Elara swept in like a storm, dressed in silk that shimmered like the morning sun. She greeted Adrian with bold words and a charming smile. She ignored Leora at first, as if she were nothing more than a shadow in the corner. But soon Elara's sharp eyes fell on her. She studied Leora from head to toe and smirked. "So, this is the girl without a voice," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "How curious. A prince deserves a queen who can speak for his people." Courtiers laughed nervously. Adrian frowned but said nothing. Leora's cheeks burned with shame, though her eyes glistened with silent tears. From that day, Elara made it her mission to push Leora aside. She walked boldly beside Adrian, whispering secrets into his ear. She danced gracefully at banquets, her laughter echoing through the halls. She brought him gifts from her land, gold, jewels, rare spices. People admired her, for she was charming and strong, everything Leora could not appear to be. But Leora's love was quiet, deep, and true. She could not compete with Elara's fire, yet she hoped Adrian's heart would see beyond words and wealth. Night, Prince Adrian walked alone in the gardens, torn between the mysterious girl of the sea and the powerful princess who promised strength for his kingdom. He did not know the truth, that Leora had saved his life, that she had given up her voice for love, that her very soul was at risk. Leora watched him, her heart aching. She wanted to scream, to tell him everything, but her voice was gone. She tried to write, but her hands shook, and words on paper could not explain her sacrifice. Palace announced a great banquet to honor Princess Elara. The halls were decorated with golden banners, tables heavy with roasted meats, sweet fruits, and wines that sparkled like rubies. Music filled the air, and dancers twirled in silken gowns. Leora sat beside Adrian, her heart pounding. She wore a gown of blue silk, her hair braided with pearls. She looked every bit a queen, yet her silence set her apart. Elara, on the other hand, dazzled the guests with her wit and charm. She sang songs, told stories, and raised her glass in bold toasts. Then came the cruelest blow. Elara stood and declared before all, "My father has spoken of a union between our kingdoms. Prince Adrian and I are meant to be. Together we will rule with strength and glory." The hall erupted in cheers. Courtiers clapped, the servants bowed, and even the elders nodded. All eyes turned to Adrian. His face was pale, his hands trembling. He looked at Leora, whose eyes shone with silent tears, then back at Elara, who smiled with confidence. The banquet became a stage of lies. Whispers spread like wildfire. The silent girl cannot be queen. Elara is the true choice. The prince must choose wisely. Leora's heart broke. She had risked everything, her voice, her family, her very life, for this love. And now she felt it slipping away like sand through her fingers. As the music played and the hall roared with laughter, she sat in silence, her hands cold, her eyes locked on Adrian. She prayed he would see her, truly see her. But in his eyes flickered doubt, and doubt is the seed from which mistrust grows. The night after the banquet, the palace was restless. Servants carried gossip like sparks carried by the wind. Everywhere Leora walked, she heard whispers. She cannot even speak. Elara will make a stronger queen. The prince deserves someone with power. These words pressed against her like stones. But what hurt most was the look in Adrian's eyes. He was not cruel, not unkind, but he was unsure. And doubt, she knew, was more dangerous than hatred. Elara used every chance to plant seeds of mistrust. She walked beside Adrian in the gardens and whispered, "Do you truly know this girl? She has no family, no past. What if she is a spy? What if she hides danger beneath her silence?" Adrian frowned. "She is kind." "Kindness is not enough to rule a kingdom," Elara pressed. "A queen must be strong, wise, and known, not a nameless girl who appeared from the sea." Her words fell into the cracks of Adrian's heart. Leora, watching from afar, felt her soul breaking. She wanted to run, to tell him everything, that she had saved him, that she had given her voice for him, that her very life was tied to his choice. But her throat was empty, her voice forever gone. As if her pain was not enough, the sea which appeared to her once more. One evening, as Leora sat by the balcony overlooking the ocean, the waves grew dark and foamy. Out of the water rose the witch, her green eyes glowing. "Ah, little mermaid," she hissed. "Do you remember my warning?" Leora's heart trembled. She nodded weakly. "If the prince weds another, when the sun rises, your body will turn into foam, and you will vanish forever. No one will even remember you." The witch laughed cruelly. "Your sacrifice will be wasted, your love forgotten. That is the price of chasing what was never yours." Tears ran down Leora's cheeks. She wanted to scream, but silence chained her tongue. She prayed Adrian would see her love, but fear grew heavy in her chest. The witch's voice slithered like smoke. "There is another way. If you wish to save yourself, kill the prince before the wedding night. Spill his blood on the shore, and your tale will return. You will be a mermaid again, free to live." Leora's eyes widened in horror. Kill Adrian? The thought tore her apart. She shook her head violently, tears dripping like pearls into the sea. She could not harm the one she loved, even if it meant saving herself. The witch laughed and vanished, leaving behind only the sound of waves crashing like broken hearts. Kingdom awaited Adrian's choice. Whispers turned into pressure, and pressure turned into chains. The elders met with him in secret. "For the good of the kingdom, you must marry Princess Elara," they said. "Her alliance will strengthen us. The silent girl brings only questions and weakness." Adrian listened, torn. He thought of Leora, her gentle eyes, her silent love. But he also thought of the weight of the crown. A king's heart was not only his own, it belonged to his people. The night before the announcement, Adrian stood by the sea. Leora joined him, her heart trembling. He looked at her with pain in his eyes. "I wish I knew who you are," he whispered. "I wish you could speak, tell me the truth. But I cannot build a future on mysteries. Forgive me, Serena." Her heart shattered. She reached for his hand, pressed it against her cheek, and shook her head desperately. Tears streamed down her face, but no words came. Adrian pulled away slowly. His eyes were wet, but his voice was firm. "Tomorrow I will announce my marriage to Princess Elara." The words cut her soul like knives. She fell to her knees, sobbing in silence. The sea roared behind them, as if it too cried for her. The wedding day arrived. Bells rang through the city, banners of gold and red flew high, and the people cheered. Elara stood proud, dressed in a gown that glittered like fire. Adrian stood beside her, his face pale but steady. Leora watched from the edge of the crowd, hidden in a cloak. Her legs trembled, her heart bleeding. Every cheer felt like a hammer on her chest. When Adrian placed the crown upon Alara's head, the world tilted. She fell to the ground, clutching her chest. Night came. Palace danced with music and laughter. But Leora walked alone to the shore, her feet sinking into the sand. She remembered the witch's words, "At dawn you will turn into foam." She looked at the water and saw her reflection, pale, broken, yet still full of love. She thought of Adrian. She thought of the life she had dreamed of but could never have. She closed her eyes and whispered in her heart, "I would rather vanish with love than live with hate." The moon shone bright, and the waves carried her softly. She walked into the sea, step by step, until the water reached her waist. She raised her hands as if surrendering to the ocean. When the first light of dawn touched the horizon, her body glimmered. Her legs dissolved into silver foam. Her hair spread out like dark seaweed, and her eyes closed for the last time. The sea carried her away, and where she had stood, only bubbles remained. When Adrian woke the next morning, the sky was gray. He walked to the balcony and looked at the sea. For a moment, he thought he saw something, a shimmer of foam that glowed like pearls. And then it was gone. A deep sorrow gripped his chest. He felt as if he had lost something precious, though he could not name it. A memory haunted him, the mysterious girl with silent eyes who had loved him without words. He placed his hand on his heart, but all he felt was emptiness. Alara stood beside him, proud and strong, but his soul was far away, lost to the waves. True love demands sacrifice. Leora gave up her voice, her family, her very life for love. But love built on doubt cannot survive. Sacrifice must be met with trust. Power and pride can blind hearts. The kingdom valued alliances and appearances more than kindness and loyalty. In chasing power, they lost the gentlest heart among them. Silence can be louder than words. Though Leora could not speak, her actions spoke of pure love. Yet the world did not listen. We must learn to see beyond appearances. Not everything we desire belongs to us. Leora longed for the human world, but it was not her place. Sometimes, chasing what is forbidden brings only sorrow. Cherish what you have before it is gone. Adrian realized too late what he had lost. A lesson for all: do not take love for granted. How many times do we ignore silent sacrifices made for us, only to regret later? Is power worth more than kindness? Can we truly love someone if we do not trust them? Do we value appearances more than hearts in our world today? If you have not subscribed to my channel, you might not hear my voice again, but if you are, then you are growing every day. Check my page for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.